Hi, so this is our country, Zimbabwe. We wanted to choose to look at the HIV and AIDS epidemic, and we wanted to see how it's affecting Zimbabwe. In our group, we have Kennedy, Kayla, Jordan, Nancy, and then I'm Carlin. So in order to look at this, we first need to look at the basic level and social demographics. So the whole entire population of Zimbabwe comes out to close to 15 million. It's split pretty evenly between men and female populations. You can see it's at 49.3% versus 50.7%. The overall age structure, so for 0 to 14 years old, that takes up about 38% of the population. 15 to 24% takes up about 20% of the population. 25 to 54 years old makes up about 32% of the population. 55 to 64 years old only makes up for 4%, and 65 years and up makes about 4.5%. And then another interesting piece of information is that the life expectancy at birth for men, it's about 60 years old, whereas female, they're expected to live a little bit longer at 64 years old. Religion in Zimbabwe is predominantly Protestant. It makes up for 74.8%. Roman Catholic makes up for 7.3%. Other Christian is 5.3%. Traditional religion is 1.5%. Muslim is 0.5%. Other is 0.1%. And then 10.5% of the people living in Zimbabwe have no religious affiliation.
Next, we're going to talk about race and ethnicity in Zimbabwe. As far as the breakdown goes, African equates for 99.4%, other is 0.4%, and unspecified is 0.2%. And then for the literacy rate in Zimbabwe, 86.5% of the population aged 15 and older can read and write English.
For the government of Zimbabwe, they have a presidential republic. The capital city is Harare, which you can see on the map. Their president is Emerson Mnangagwa, which you can also see on the slide. His vice presidents include Constantino Chiwena and Kembo Mahadi. Their independence was on April 18th, 1980, but they revised the Constitution up until May 22nd, 2013. And you can see that they actually handed out the final draft of the Constitution to residents of Zimbabwe. Major political parties include the MDC Alliance, the Movement for Democratic Change, and the National People's Party. Military-wise, Zimbabwe has the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, which we can see the crest on the bottom left, and this includes the Zimbabwe National Army and the Air Force of Zimbabwe.
Regarding the economy of Zimbabwe, the GDP, which is the gross domestic product per capita, is $2,300. And this GDP is made up by three predominant sectors. It's agriculture, industry, and services. And these three sectors are what make up the economy and bring money into Zimbabwe. Agriculture makes up 12% of the GDP. Industry makes up 22.2% of the GDP, and services make up the most at 65.8%. Unemployment rates have decreased from 80% in 2005 to 11.3% in 2014. Only 72.3% of the population is below the poverty line according to data from 2012. As you can see in the bottom picture, 3 eggs in Zimbabwe are worth 100 billion Zimbabwe dollars. This shows that inflation is very bad in Zimbabwe, and the Zimbabwe dollar is virtually worth nothing anymore. So now they're starting to change the currency of Zimbabwe to move to a US dollar, which will help the economy.
Now we are going to look into the geography of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a country in Africa which is located right below the equator with an area of 150,871 square miles. As you can see in the image, Zimbabwe borders South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and Mozambique. Its physical geography includes mountains, waterfalls, fields, rivers, and deep gorges. The natural aspect of this country is truly beautiful. The majority of the land is a high plateau with a high field in the center. Zimbabwe's climate is moderate in all seasons with warm days and cool nights. The sun shines nearly every day, even at the height of the warm rainy season, which is November through April. The average temperature in the winter is 45 degrees at night, though frost occasionally occurs. The average daily temperature in summer is 75 degrees, with temperature seldom surpassing 90 degrees. Zimbabwe has abundant of natural resources, including diamond, gold, coal, iron, ore, chromium, ore, nickel, copper, lithium, tin, and platinum group metals. As you can see in the image on the slide, Zimbabwe is home to one of the nature's wonders of the world, the Victoria Falls, which is located on the river that forms the world's largest curtain of falling water.
In 2018, there were 38,000 new cases of HIV in Zimbabwe. In total, 1.3 million people were living with HIV in Zimbabwe in 2018. By group, women comprise 730,000 cases of HIV, young people comprise 13,000 cases, and sex workers living with HIV comprise 17,800 cases. The number of men who have sex with men are not available, as homosexuality between men is criminalized and illegal. These numbers are not available as national statistics, and we don't know how many men who have sex with men are living with HIV.
There's a total number of 22,000 deaths that occurred in 2018. This is a big decrease from the number of cases in 2010, which was 54,000 cases. That decrease was 60%. Unprotected heterosexual sex accounts for 55% of transmission of new cases. This means that women are disproportionately affected by HIV and account for 60.8% of people living with HIV in Zimbabwe.
Regarding healthcare response, ART is the main form of treatment for those with HIV, and ART is antiretroviral therapy. 29% of children with HIV are in need of ART, and 14% of adults are in need of ART. The reported number of people who are receiving antiretroviral therapy is about 1,086,674 people. If the CD4 count of an individual is below 50 cells per cubic millimeters, the cost of ART is roughly $9,360. If the CD4 count is higher than this number, then the cost can range from $11,800 to $12,313. The type of HIV an individual has and how severe it is will then also determine the cost of ART. A new third line of ART is available at only 3 government clinics in all of Zimbabwe, although comprehensive HIV testing and treatment services are available in 442 clinical sites. In the first picture you see at the top right, this is a pop-up kiosk that was open in a village that didn't have proper access to a standing clinic. These kiosks go and provide more information about HIV to those who don't know, or give treatment or provide referrals for different services. Clinics also offer preventative education such as condom usage or general preventative measures, or just knowing how HIV works and how it can be transmitted.
Now let's talk about the education and prevention of HIV and AIDS. In 2005, the World Health Organization reported that in order to support the antiretroviral therapy, they need to reach the 3x5 treatment target of 145,000 people that requires anywhere between $360 million to $375 million. But where does that money come from? The government of Zimbabwe in 1999 made a change to bring funding to HIV and AIDS activity. The revenue of the National HIV and AIDS Levy, which means 3% of all taxable income, goes directly towards the National AIDS Trust Fund. The National AIDS Council manages these finances. However, it is recognized that around 2/3 of HIV expenditure in Zimbabwe comes from international donor sources. Zimbabwe's National HIV and AIDS Strategic Plan 2011 through 2015 saw that the country adopted a combination prevention strategy approach, which focuses on a number of areas to prevent new infections. Then, in 2017, the government published the extended Zimbabwe National AIDS Strategic Plan III, which will run through 2020.
In order to continue to look at the education and prevention methods that Zimbabwe is using, which, as we know, are very important to slowing down the spread of HIV, we want to look at the condom distribution programs that they have set in place, how many HIV tests are even performed each year, and the number of testing sites. So it is noted that the condom distribution in Zimbabwe is actually pretty good. There's really a standard that comes from the United Nations Population Funds, and the standard asks that these countries give out 30 condoms per person, well, per man, per year. And then in 2017, Zimbabwe actually beat this, and they handed out 33 condoms per man per year, which equates to 120 million male condoms. And additionally, they did a distribution of 5.3 million female condoms. So it's interesting to see male versus female also. The number of HIV testing sites carried out, so it's increased. In 2011, it was at 19.4 million tests they gave out per year. And then in 2017, we got to see an increase to 28 million, which is very good. And then there are a total of 442 testing sites in the country of Zimbabwe. So people either get tested because they just want to know voluntary counseling, diagnostic testing, or general blood safety. The most common form of testing used is rapid testing. However, it's noted that for quality assurance, you might need to get some other forms of testing. So once again, testing is really good because it is a first step at educating oneself about spreading HIV. And so with that being said, we'll share our PSA.
And here is our PSA. Thank you for watching.